Welcome to Auction Adventures. Chris Dudley here with Dudley's Auctions. We're here again with another fun and exciting collection. I am here with Roy Case. Roy Case and I have been friends for a really long time, and he has lots and lots of collections, but the collection he's going to share with us today is his marble collection. And we're going to talk about some of the cool ways you can look for marbles, because everybody has marbles stashed every which way and where values are at. And right off the bat, I want you to tell me about one of your favorite marbles in this pile.
Probably here, these three are probably my favorite.
Now, we'll hold it up and she'll zoom in on there and tell them why this is your favorite marble, one of your favorite marbles.
It's partly because of the color. I'm just attracted to the color, but those marbles I actually found here in Florida, so you can find old marbles in Florida. Even though there weren't many made here, they make it down here because they're small. Those are acro-agate corkscrews, they're called. And those three I found together, they were probably made the same day in the same, what they call a run, out of the glass tank. And they've been together their whole life, and they were at least 1954 or earlier.
1854 or earlier.
1954.
That's amazing. Now, I know that you've done this in the past with me, and so you can look at a marble and identify the style and where it was made and what company it comes from. Tell me about these.
Well, acro-agate is probably the biggest, what they call machine-made marbles company of all. They were one of the last to survive after World War II, but they were in business for almost 60 years, and they've made a lot of marbles, but they were the only ones that made those corkscrews, and that means that the pattern goes around the marble like a barber pole or a corkscrew. And when they went out of business, they actually smashed the machine so nobody else would ever figure out how they did that.
Well, that's pretty wild. Yeah. Now, what's the value on the marble like this?
I wouldn't sell those three individually because I believe they should be kept together for the history of the company. But I would probably sell those three marbles to a collector for about $250 for the three of them.
You know, it's so funny. People don't look at marbles and think that they have any value, but we've done a couple of different things. Appraisal fairs where people bring in their marbles and you look at them and you kind of get a value for them. We've done marble conventions. And people have where those people came from? They came from all over, didn't they?
Oh, they all across the country. On a daily basis on the internet, there's about, just on eBay alone, there's about 20,000 different marbles listed every day. There's a lot of collectors, and they're from. I've had them come from as far as Washington State, California, Nevada. So real big in the Northeast. A lot of the marble companies were based in Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, because they had the natural gas strike. The first one in the country was there. And at first when they found, they didn't even know what to do with it until they said, we can make glass with that source of energy.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's why a lot of them are up in that area. That's why it's big in that area.
Now show me the difference between, when you said this is a machine made, is this a handmade?
The others there are handmades.
This one?
That's what they call a solid core, because the center core. The difference really with the handmades is they're made from a cane of molten glass that's coming down with straight lines in it, and they twist it to cut the marble off, and they round it with a tool, and that's what makes the pattern go kind of around in them.
And then you can almost see the little pontiff at the top right there.
A handmade should have at least one pontiff on it, if not two.
And they have different swirls.
That one there is, that's called an end of day. You can see how crazy the swirls are in that. That only has one pontiff because that was the first one off the cane, and when they twisted it, it made it go all crazy inside, which is sort of like a coin with a double stamp in it. That makes it more valuable because it's so unusual. That's one of my favorites too.
Okay, now tell me, just because people that don't know marbles and look at these and go, well, they're just a bag of marbles, give me some values on these different ones. Like this one.
That one I wouldn't sell for less than $300.
$300. And this one here?
That's probably about a $100 marble.
And is this one right here with the darker colors more common?
Actually, that's a pretty rare marble. If you look at the red in there, it's got kind of like a tinfoil look to it.
Inside the core.
I've never ever found another one of those. That one I got from a lady in India who sent it over here, and her great-grandfather was an importer from Germany and England into India when England still ran India, and that's been in her family ever since it was new in 1890.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So that's kind of a favorite.
Okay,
also.
so these are your favorites. You put them there.
Yeah.
So give me some idea. We talked about this one selling as a set of 3. We've talked about this one, being an individual piece because it had one pontiff and it was an end of day or a beginning of day. And then this one, how much would that one be with it came from India?
Well, I invested only about $70 in it, but I really don't know the value of that marble because I've never seen another one. And that's after 25 years, so it's a pretty rare thing.
Now, I know we've got some information that we can put up there, so if anybody has any questions, you'd be happy to look at their marbles.
Absolutely. It's fun looking at them. And they're not all worth that kind of money, but even the ones that are worth $2 or $3 can be real fascinating.
Right, and then we'll talk about some of those other ones as we come through, because I know that you've collected them. I remember you coming to us one time and telling me, how many tons was it that you bought from that one collection?
Well, we had to rent a 3/4 ton van to load them, and it was really overloaded. And it's only about halfway up the van because it's just it's solid
marbles.
Yeah, all boxed in 50-pound boxes. I don't know what the weight was, but that van was tired when it got to Florida.
And so how many marbles did you think was inside that collection?
I think in that one there was probably maybe 600,000, 700,000 marbles.
And do they specialize in any particular? I know that sometimes you can buy marbles, they're in their original boxes, they come in their marble bags, they'll have...
The boxes and all the paraphernalia that goes with marbles is also collectible. This little board here is a grant board. A lot of collectors use those, and that was a board, and it's called a grant board because Ulysses S. Grant used to play that game because it's a solitary game. You can play it by yourself. When he was sitting in his tent, there's pictures of him with one of those.
And then the marbles using it to just go back and forth to play.
Yeah, you jump over them. I think it ends up with where you want to end up with just one marble on the board. It's real hard to do.
Well, it's like there's people who collect, are as obsessive of a nature when you start collecting these sort of things. And I know that you have several different collections. And we're going to do some other shows with the model cars.
Which is a mid-century
collection. In the original boxes, that kind of thing.
The original boxes is a big part of it.
Yeah, and then we're also going to talk about some of the steel trucks. Now, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Roy's going to tell us some more about his marbles, what to look for when you're checking out marbles, some values, and how to come around and make that identification. So stay with us. Auction Adventures, Chris Dudley. We'll see you in just a couple minutes. Hi, Chris Dudley here at Auction Adventures. We're here with Roy Kays. Roy Kays is my marble guy. Marbles are his thing, one of his many things, but he really knows marbles. So if you have an interest in marbles on how to identify them, this is what we're going to do today. And if you have any questions and you really want to talk to Roy, I know we have his phone number. He does live in Lake Pennsauken, does make house calls, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we do have an appraisal fair coming up in June, where Roy will be one of the many appraisers that will be with us over at the Homosassa Springs attraction. They set that up and it's loads of fun. People come from all over and bring all sorts of treasures. So we'll see you there for Marbles with Roy. But let's talk about some of these marbles we have in front of us again. I know we have lots of marbles to look at. And I asked about a bumblebee, but you told me these are Boy Scouts.
Those are Boy Scouts, yeah. Cub Scouts. Blue and yellow. A lot of the names for the marbles are just by color. Somebody would say, oh, that's the same colors as this. And those names have been with marbles from, the turn of the century.
So this one here is basically because of the blue and yellow.
It's because of the color, yeah.
Now, I know that you pointed the other one over there because I asked about a Superman. And the Superman...
That's the Superman right there. And it's because of the Superman colors. Now, a lot of those names were for a particular manufacturer as well, but over time, collectors have just used those names for anybody that made a yellow, red, and blue one. It used to be just for one maker, but...
Is there any specific website or places they can go to that you like to use that kind of shows you the different marbles and what their names are?
There's a lot on the internet. There's books at the library if you're not a e-person that that I learned from originally. When I first started collecting, I went to the library and borrowed books. And then eventually, when I decided I was going to be serious about it, I went and bought books. We still didn't have the internet when I started. But the internet is a valuable source for marble knowledge. But unfortunately, because of the nature of a marble being a round object and small, it's hard to really tell what they are by a picture.
Right.
When you're in person, you can roll it around and you see all sides.
Well, I know we were just talking about this one. You called this one a dragon.
That's a flaming dragon by Peltier, and it's a two-headed dragon. There's one head that looks sort of like the Loch Ness Monster,
yeah, I see it
and
right
the other
there.
one that looks just like Dino from the Flintstones.
Oh,
and I'm
there
telling you,
you
it
go.
really looks like him. It's got little eyebrows and everything, completely by accident, but it's a good and valuable marble because of it.
Okay, tell me value. You say value after.
That's probably at least $100 marble.
$100 marble.
This might be the most fascinating marble I've ever found.
And this one is because it's still in its original.
That I had a brother-in-law when I was a kid who could just BS you about anything. And he told me one time, because he knew I liked marbles, when we were fishing, said, all those sinkers have marbles in the middle of them. And I said, I'm thinking, oh, it's just him.
Oh, yeah.
I actually found a sinker that wasn't completely formed, and they do have marbles.
See, I didn't know that.
Nobody knew it.
Huh.
When I found that, the marble world was like, oh my God.
That's for real.
Nobody believed it really was that way. But at the time, lead was more expensive than a marble.
Huh.
So that's what they did.
Well, I know they use marbles in all sorts of things. That when you did the marble convention, there was a guy that had jewelry that had marbles in it. They have marbles that use it for games. They've used it for all sorts of different things.
And the rattle in a can of spray paint, it's not metal. It's a marble.
It's a marble. Didn't know that.
Jabo, who made a lot of these marbles here, at the time, talked to the spray paint people into letting them try it, and it worked better than the metal.
I'll be darned. Now, when you said Jabo, where is Jabo?
Jabo is the next, well, it's no longer in existence, but those were made just a couple years ago. They started doing what they called contract runs, where you could go in there and rent the factory for a day and make your own marbles.
Well, how cool is that? Now, this one says this is a hillbilly.
Yeah, that was the name. Every one of those contract runs had a name associated with it, so that people would know when it was made or who made it.
Again.
But they were the ones, those were the same people that were responsible for the rattle in the paint cans, and there's only one manufacturer of machine-made marbles left in the United States. They just went out of business
Oh, did they
a couple
really?
years ago.
What a drag.
Yeah, it was.
So who's the business now?
Now it's Marble King, which is in close to Sistersville, West Virginia.
West Virginia. Now, I know there's a lot of glass. I know we talk about Belite Glass, which is up in Ohio. I mean, there's just different glass companies. Belite might be in Kentucky. But there's so many different auctions.
Sure, well, Fenton's right there in Parkersburg, in West Virginia.
West Virginia.
And, of course, Cambridge Glass. And all the marble manufacturers at one point or another bought cullet from all those art glass places.
When you say bought cullet, is that like the cult?
When they make the pressed glass, like maybe a flower vase, all the trimmings that come off of that, or in drippings, or any glass that's wasted is piled in a pile of that color of glass.
I've been to the
and
one
they
at
come
the
in
Belite.
there with a front loader and buy it to make marbles out of it.
Well, cool. So
Especially
you're
the
learning
clear
something
glass,
new
yeah.
every day. That's part of the adventure of this business.
It absolutely is.
You learn every day. Now, over here, I see we have character marbles.
Those, again, that was a process that was reinvented by Jabo, that same company. Peltier made them back in the 1930s, but then about 20 years ago, Jabo found the process and started making them again. You could get almost anything. If you really wanted it on a marble, you could get it done.
Now, I remember you showing me some marbles that had characters inside of them, clear glass, and they had animals.
There's a lot of different ones. Sulfides are the ones they were one of the first marble collected. And they were made in the mid to late 1800s. And then again in about 1970, the glass people in California started remaking them, which a lot of times in collectibles, and not just marbles, when something gets to be valuable enough, somebody's going to try to remake it and cheat you if they can.
You know, I was going to say recreate a different market, but I guess that's one way of putting it. I know that there's so many interesting pieces and parts in here, and we're going to go look at some of these other ones. I know we used to call, there's different names for different size marbles.
Sure.
Like we used to call the knockers. I don't know, the larger ones.
It's strange you would use that word. This is probably about the size of a tournament shooter. That's a little bit bigger, and most of the manufacturers call those boulders or bobos.
Bobos.
I don't know.
Well, we're going to find out some of the more descriptive names for some of these different ones when we come back. I know that we have different manufacturers to show. We have this one gentleman over here who makes bird's nests or bird egg ones that are just really wonderful.
Beautiful
So
stuff.
just stay tuned. More information, more knowledge, more exciting things to see on Auction Adventures. Chris Dudley, Roy Kays. Come on back. Don't go too far on that commercial and we'll learn some more, okay? See you in a minute. Hi, Chris Dudley back again for Auction Adventures. I'm here with Roy Kays, a real good friend of mine from Lake Pennsauken. He is our marble guy, and we've been talking about some of the really cool things in the history and the background, but now we're going to talk about something that's a little more contemporary, and it is your friend in Dunellen, who you met via marbles?
Yes, I actually did. These are...
They are just so cool, and it's so hard to see them, but I know that each one of these boxes has a different marble in it.
Yeah, every box, these are 3 different realms, he calls them. There's 24 marbles in each one, and a lot of these are made with materials that you can't get anymore. It's like the material itself was actually antique.
There you go, you hold it up. See how beautiful the colors are?
They each come with a little card and a name for each one, and the colors on them are fantastic. The little spots on there, every one of those little spots is hand applied. They're
you hold it up a little bit better.
Rounded off, and then glazed and baked in an oven, and then reglazed, and the dots are put on them and baked again. He must spend at least an hour on every one of these.
What's his name now?
Rondell.
Rondell, and I know that I've seen some of the other things that he does. He does these wonderful replica bird eggs.
Absolutely.
Look exactly like the different birds' eggs.
The detail is so amazing. Yeah. I don't know where anybody gets the patience to do that.
Now, a set of these, how much is a set of these worth?
Each one of those sells for $200 a set. Well, when you break that down, that's $8 a marble, and it takes them over an hour to make each one of them. So he's not getting rich by any means.
But that's a great investment, especially if you're in that sort of thing.
Absolutely beautiful. I've had chances to sell those. I take those along. Those are mine. I take those along when I'm selling marbles just to show people. He still sells different marbles now, but he's still making marbles and selling them. But I think they're really beautiful.
Now this piece right here, whoops, sorry about that. This piece right here has a little pontiff on the end.
Yeah, this was a mistake, and a lot, like I say, in the stamps or coins, a mistake to the marble maker was just a loss of money. Mm-hmm. But to the collector, it makes them that much rarer.
Because they wouldn't let them out.
They're actually, that's a bumblebee that isn't round. That's a...
Huh. And so they would normally toss those and start all over, and it wouldn't make it out.
That undoubtedly was dug by somebody. A lot of times they just dump them out back, you know. Huh. And so there's a lot of people who are marble diggers, believe me.
And I know that they'll be, marble diggers will go out with a metal detector because they would have been thrown away in the garbage, and they're digging around in the garbage, but they don't really want the garbage. They want the marbles.
Yep.
Well,
and the bottle collectors, that's all kind of the same group, and a lot of times they're in the same place.
I used to work with a guy named Digger. That was his name, Digger, because he spent so much of his free time just out digging, looking for bottles, and that's what he was.
There are marble collectors who don't like marble diggers because marble diggers bring marbles in that they didn't pay anything for and want to sell them for less. So there's a kind of a battle goes on there.
Now you were talking about this jar marbles.
Yeah, these are called, I call these black beans. I started collecting these. I decided I was going to collect this particular marble and fill a jar up I figured it'd take me a year or two. It took me 12 years to fill that one jar up.
Because you were looking for that particular marble,
for that
wherever
one
your
marble.
travels took you.
Yeah, when I'm out, I take my little sign and I put this up because most people, that's where they keep their old marbles, is in a jar in the basement or in the attic or in a coffee can. So it's kind of to get them to think about, oh, I got some marbles.
And they would bring you that jar or
Yeah.
that coffee can, and like you said, there might be something, but there might be...
Well, the neat thing to me, one of the most interesting things that collecting marbles is that they are the only, that I know of, collectible that was gambled for by the kids. So a boy could go to Murphy's in 1965, get a bag of marbles for $1.49, and he'd go to school and play with somebody who had grandpa's marbles in the same game.
Right.
So some of grandpa's marbles would end up in that jar from 1968, but they were from 1868.
Right.
So you could end up with a jar that doesn't look like much, and in the middle there'll be a marble worth $1,000. In fact, I've actually had that happen.
Well, I know that when we had the marble thing, and Robert brought out his jar of marbles that his mother had been keeping, all the marble guys were swarming around. Let me buy the jar. Let me buy the jar. And we ended up just saying, okay, we dumped it out, looked it up, and pulled certain marbles, and he got to keep a major portion of his marbles because they were his mother's marbles, his father's marbles, and he didn't really want them to go. But they pulled half a dozen, and it was over $1,000 worth of marbles.
Yeah, that was full of acro agate marbles, the corkscrews, and some of those were purple Popeyes, which is a real rare acro agate marble. Almost any jar of marbles that's been in the family for 50 years is going to have something worth something in that jar.
And it's always worth taking the time to look at it. I know that when we talk about estates, we go in and we talk to people and we say, be careful what you throw away. A lot of times you don't realize that there's value in some of those things. And marbles is one of the things. Marbles, pens, early advertising, political buttons, what we call bottom of the drawer. You know, Robert is a bottom of the drawer junkie because all those small things people will take and collect, and almost anything has collectible value, just finding the right buyer.
And now, you know, the big buzzword you're hearing all the time is mid-century. You know, I was born in '49, so my generation is just now starting to look around thinking, well, I remember the stuff I played with as a kid, and I really liked that stuff. I wonder if I've got any of it. And a lot of times it's stuck away somewhere.
Well, you know, talking about stuck away and coming up with another one of our shows that we're going to do that's part of your collections are your models that were from that era. What
Absolutely.
years?
I think I must have started around 1957. I was 8 or 9 years old. It just works out that I'm the leading edge of the baby boomers. So, you know, 58, 59, that's the mid-century stuff that everybody's looking for.
Yeah,
that's all I had was mid-century stuff.
And then we're going to, when we come back on one of our next shows, that's what we'll bring. We'll bring some of the models. You have some originals still in the box.
Oh, they're beautiful.
They're beautiful. And we're going to talk about those and what current values are, how to find them, what to look for. So in the meantime, all of you need to go out there, look in your garage, stuff in your basement, up in the attic, things that have been put away. Hopefully your models aren't in the attic because that heat kind of gets to them a little bit. Because condition has a lot to do with value.
It absolutely does. And being plastic, they're kind of prone to heat problems. The pressed steel trucks, I do those too. It was kind of a war back there in the 50s between metal and plastic. Plastic was the new thing, and metal was the old thing, and one replaced the other. And then the model cars, believe it or not, the downfall of model cars, as far as the sales, was the Pong game.
And then here it comes. Now we're running out of time because we have so much to talk about. We'll be back again. Keep checking every Monday at 8 o'clock, Wednesday at noon. Dudley Adventures is what we go by, but Auction Adventures is the show. Always an adventure. Come back, see us again for our next collector and see what we're going to bring because, again, always an adventure. We'll see you soon.